Hello and welcome back to the Underrated channel. We're going into part number 3 here. So this is going to be a little bit of a bounce around here. So if you're watching this on the Underrated channel today, this is kind of a follow-up to yesterday's, but we skipped a little bit of a part here. There's a part in between here about this Greenland Eskimo. And I'm sharing a video on the 88 Sats radio channel talking about this today. So I didn't want to go through it twice. And so we're just going to skip over this part. But I do encourage you, if you're watching this on the Underrated channel, go over to the 88 Sats radio channel, the Bitcoin one, and listen to the story about this Greenland Eskimo here. But we're going to skip past that. We're going to go to the next part here, which is, I think this is the start of it. I'm going to have to go double check my notebook. I just realized I forgot on the table there, but I'm pretty sure. Just give me 1 second here.
But there is no adequate reason why the average man should ever close his mind to fresh slants on life.
Yes, okay. So we're in the right spot. So let me, we're going to watch about 4 or 5 minutes of this. We're going to listen to it and then we'll discuss it. But this is part 2 again. This is called the definite chief aim. So Napoleon's kind of just building up the importance of ideas here, the importance of ideas, the importance of stimulating and working your mind every day, and the importance of finding harmony with others to reduce the friction on your path to success, your definite chief aim. So again, we're going to listen to about 3 or 4 minutes of this, and then we're going to discuss. So here we go.
Nature makes us resent the impact of new ideas. We hate to be disturbed in the beliefs and prejudices that have been handed down with the family furniture. At maturity, too many of us go into hibernation and live off the fat of ancient fetishes. If a new idea invades our den, we rise up snarling from our winter sleep. The Eskimos, at least, had some excuse. They were unable to visualize the startling pictures drawn by Sagluk. Their simple lives had been too long circumscribed by the brooding Arctic night. But there is no adequate reason why the average man should ever close his mind to fresh slants on life. He does just the same. Nothing is more tragic or more common than mental inertia. For every 10 men who are physically lazy, there are 10,000 with stagnant minds, and stagnant minds are the breeding places of fear. An old farmer up in Vermont always used to wind up his prayers with this plea: "Oh God, give me an open mind." If more people followed his example, they might escape being hamstrung by prejudices, and what a pleasant place to live in the world would be. Every person should make it his business to gather new ideas from sources other than the environment in which he daily lives and works. The mind becomes withered, stagnant, narrow, and closed unless it searches for new ideas. The farmer should come to the city quite often and walk among the strange faces and the tall buildings. He will go back to his farm, his mind refreshed, with more courage and greater enthusiasm. The city man should take a trip to the country every so often and freshen his mind with sights new and different from those associated with his daily labors. Everyone needs a change of mental environment at regular periods, the same as a change and variety of food are essential. The mind becomes more alert, more elastic, and more ready to work with speed and accuracy after it has been bathed in new ideas outside of one's own field of daily labor. As a student of this course, you will temporarily lay aside the set of ideas with which you perform your daily labors and enter a field of entirely new, and in some instances, heretofore unheard of ideas. Splendid! You will come out at the other end of this course with a new stock of ideas which will make you more efficient, more enthusiastic, and more courageous, no matter in what sort of work you may be engaged. Do not be afraid of new ideas. They may mean to you the difference between success and failure. Some of the ideas introduced in this course will require no further explanation or proof of their soundness, because they are familiar to practically everyone. Other ideas here introduced are new, and for that very reason, many students of this philosophy may hesitate to accept them as sound. Every principle described in this course has been thoroughly tested by the author, and the majority of the principles covered have been tested by scores of scientists and others who were quite capable of distinguishing between the merely theoretic and the practical. For these reasons, all principles here covered are known to be workable in the exact manner claimed for them. However, no student of this course is asked to accept any statement made in these lessons without having first satisfied himself or herself by tests, experiments, and analysis that the statement is sound. The major evil the student is requested to avoid is that of forming opinions without definite facts as the basis, which brings to mind Herbert Spencer's famous admonition in these words: "There is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all argument, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. This principle is contempt prior to examination." It may be well to bear this principle in mind when you come to study the law of the mastermind described in these lessons. This law embodies an entirely new principle of mind operation, and for this reason alone, it will be difficult for many students to accept it as sound until after they have experimented with it. When the fact is considered, however, that the law of the mastermind is believed to be the real basis of most of the achievements of those who are considered geniuses, this law takes on an aspect which calls for more than snap judgment opinions. It is believed by many scientific men whose opinions on the subject have been given the author of this philosophy that the law of the mastermind is the basis of practically all of the more important achievements resulting from group or cooperative effort. The late Dr. Alexander Graham Bell said he believed the law of the mastermind, as it has been described in this philosophy, was not only sound, but that all the higher institutions of learning would soon be teaching that law as a part of their courses in psychology. Charles P. Steinmetz said he had experimented with the law and had arrived at the same conclusion as that stated in these lessons, long before he talked to the author of the Law of Success philosophy about the subject. Luther Burbank and John Burroughs made similar statements. Edison was never interrogated on the subject, but other statements of his indicate that he would endorse the law as being a possibility, if not, in fact, a reality. Dr. Elmer Gates endorsed the law in a conversation with this author more than 15 years ago. Dr. Gates is a scientist of the highest order, ranking along with Steinmetz, Edison, and Bell. The author of this philosophy has talked to scores of intelligent businessmen who, while they were not scientists, admitted they believed in the soundness of the law of the mastermind. It is hardly excusable, therefore, for men of less ability to judge such matters, to form opinions as to this law without serious, systematic investigation. Let me lay before you a brief outline of what this lesson is and what it is intended to do for you. Having prepared myself.
Okay, so there's a part there that I want you to pay attention to there. And especially if you're a Bitcoiner. Again, I know this is on the underrated channel and there's a broader focus here, but I want you to pay attention to this part here. And actually, I'm thinking about writing this in my office somewhere, because I think that this is so important. Basically, what he was talking about there for the last couple paragraphs, he talked about the ideas of this book here. So again, keep in mind, this is from 1928. And so he's talking about some of these ideas. And you can imagine Napoleon Hill at this time in history. He's having conversations with people. He's talking about this kind of stuff. And a lot of people are probably writing him off as crazy because these are new concepts. And so what he was doing there in the last couple of paragraphs is he was explaining, he said, missed that. Where was that? He was talking about Dr. Alexander Graham Bell. He was talking about Charles P. Steinmetz. He was talking about Luther Burbank and John Burroughs and Dr. Elmer Gates. He's talking about these ideas, the mastermind, what Napoleon's talking about here. And he's saying these people, very intelligent, very renowned people, subscribe to this theory. And this really relates to Bitcoin in the sense that if you look at who's in Bitcoin, who's talking about Bitcoin, we've been talking about Nostr here. Who's buying Bitcoin? Who's building in Bitcoin right now? Very intelligent people. You look at, just to name a few here off the top of my head, Michael Saylor, probably one of the most intelligent, autistic guys on the planet. You know, I was kind of questioning Saylor for a while. I didn't really know where his interests were and, you know, what was going on. But I've come to see that I think he's just like heavily interested in this, obviously. He's very intelligent, but he's also has some sort of autism. So that's the intelligent here. You look at Larry Fink. He's built one of the biggest companies on the planet, the most powerful companies on the planet. You look at Tim Apple or Tim, what's his name? From Apple, Tim Cook. You look at these billionaires, Elon Musk, he's a Bitcoiner. And it's like, okay, even if you don't believe me here, look at the most intelligent people on this planet. What are they doing? Are they buying Bitcoin or are they writing it off as something else? So that's basically what Napoleon's doing here is he's saying, you know, you don't have to trust me. Look at these people who endorse these ideas here. I know these are all kind of new concepts. And he talked about humans being scared of new ideas and wanting to fall back into their paradigm. But then the other part here that I wanted to share was this. It said, it is hardly excusable right here. Can we zoom in on that? No. It is hardly excusable, therefore, for men of less ability to judge such matters to form opinions as to this law without serious, systematic investigation. And to me, that means, hey, unless you put in the work here, you don't have an opinion on this. Or if you do, it's completely irrelevant. It is hardly excusable for men of less ability to judge such matters to form opinions as to this law that Napoleon's talking about, but you could apply that to anything without serious, systematic investigation. How many of your friends, how many of your family members, how many of your coworkers, how many people that you read in the comment section on YouTube, how many of those people have put in serious, systematic investigation to understand this? The answer to that is very few of them, if any. And so therefore their opinion is completely irrelevant because they haven't taken the time. I know we kind of know this big picture, but I just love how Napoleon says that. And I would encourage you, if you are somebody who's a Bitcoiner, you take a lot of crap from other people about being too early. And that's what the Greenland Eskimo story was about, is somebody that was too early to something and the consequences of being too early. And so I just want you to keep this in the back of your mind here, that unless these other people who are saying these things to you have put in serious, systematic investigation into whatever it is that you're talking about, if you haven't, then you're part of the problem too. But if you have, then their opinion is completely irrelevant. It does not matter. There's zero ground for them to stand on. So it's important in Bitcoin. It's important in other aspects of life. Napoleon's relating it to his ideas within this book, but it's the same idea. Again, I'm not going to go into, what's an example here? I use let's say bass fishing. Bass fishing, people spend years of their life out in the water, fishing, learning out the best tools to use, the best spots to fish, the best equipment, the best boats, the best sensors, fish finders. There's people out there who've spent a lot of time, serious, systematic investigations. I've spent none. I've spent zero time thinking about that. So why would I go into a YouTube channel talking about bass fishing and give my opinion on it and think that it's relevant? It's the exact same thing in Bitcoin and other subjects as well. People, you can tell that they haven't put in the work, and therefore their opinion on it is irrelevant. So keep that in mind. I think especially if you're a Bitcoiner. But the other thing too that Napoleon was talking about here was doing something new and different and actually having confidence in yourself. Because if we go back to our original ideas here, why we're doing this whole thing, and I'm going to start sharing this every day because I do think that this is important to kind of keep in mind here as we go through this. The whole point of this is doing more than paid for. That's the whole point of this channel. Getting into a mentality of doing more than paid for, trying to get 0.01% better every day. Getting 0.01% better every day, which is 26% for the year, and actually compounds into 1,000% better, more valuable, worth more over a decade. So that's the whole reason why we're doing this. And so when we think about it that way, when you're listening to things like this, when you're listening to Napoleon Hill, what are you doing? You're getting new ideas. And these new ideas seem to come out of nowhere when you're kind of tuned into these frequencies here. And as you have more ideas, it doesn't matter if you're a 9-to-5 worker, you have a business, whatever it is that you do, you run an animal shelter, doesn't matter. These ideas are valuable. These ideas make you better. And the thing here is that humans are going to be in competition with AI for the next decade. And this is going to be very hard to achieve because AIs are going to do things a lot better and faster than us. So we have to work our ass off to even try to keep up here. But we're either trying or we're losing. That's the whole thing here. So what we want to do, Brian Tracy, with this theory that he has, he talks about productivity, performance, and output. I like becoming more valuable, becoming more disciplined and focused, and growing your network. So when we think about these things, you spend the first hour of the day on yourself. You turn your car or whatever it is you do into an audiobook every day. And these are the kinds of things that you need to be tuned into. Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale, Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, the Underrated Channel. Again, I'm not saying I'm in these, we're just talking about what these guys talk about here, but it's not so much, it's what frequency you're tuned into. And when you're tuned into these specific frequencies, you're going to get more ideas. And those ideas, they might seem crazy to other people, but you have to believe in yourself. You have to understand why you're doing this, and it's to become more valuable. Because coming full circle here, the more valuable that you are, the more value that you have to store, and the more you can put into Bitcoin. And if you bet on Bitcoin here, you're actually going to get double. You're going to get better, you're going to increase your value, and you're going to put that value to work. Not even to work. That's the crazy thing about Bitcoin, is that yes, there's more and more people joining the Bitcoin network. There's more and more people wanting to store their energy in Bitcoin. But the other part too is like everything else is falling. That's what's happening here. Bitcoin itself is on very solid foundation. Imagine that. Imagine ground. You have fiat, you have real estate, you have all these other markets, stock market on a piece of land sitting there. And the foundation of all these other things is falling. It's just falling further and further and further. The value of everything is falling, including us, right? And that's why we have to fight so hard ourselves to try to keep up that value as best we can. So everything around us is falling, except one thing, Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's not going up per se, but it's staying there. And as more people join, it starts actually to rise up. But everything else around it is falling. And so if you can understand that, if you can make yourself, and you can try to fall less, I guess, or, go up with it if you can, but these are the kind of things you want to be doing. You want to be getting new ideas, as many different ideas as you can to make yourself more valuable. Some of them will be shit, some of them will be good. But the point here is that you do it every day and you try to get 1.01% better every day. And if you do this consistently over the decade, that equates to 1,000% better. So I'm going to show this every day because I do think that this is important. It's important to remember why we're doing this, what this channel is all about, which is doing more than paid for. That's what underrated is. Underrated means you're doing less than you get back. It means that you're more valuable than you get back in value. Eventually it catches up, but at this exact moment, you're underrated. You've done more than the credit you've received. That's the whole point of this. And the only way you do that is by making yourself more valuable at whatever it is that you do throughout the day. So this is the kind of stuff, instead of caring about what's happening over here in this part of the world, or what this person said, or what the price and fiat is of this, focus on making yourself more valuable. And it's going to pay massive dividends for you in the future. So that is the show today. Hope you enjoyed that one. This chapter 2 here, this is a really good chapter, the definite chief aim. And we're going to be talking about that more and more in the next couple of days here. So this is the QR code for the underrated Lightning Wallet. Shout out to the people who have been sending some value this way. Do appreciate it. And again, if you've been enjoying these, don't care if you like it, don't care if you subscribe, make sure you leave a comment so that when other people come across it, they say, hey, this is going to be worth my time to watch. I appreciate it. It's free to do. And again, if you have been enjoying these, if you think they're shit, then don't worry about it. But if you've been enjoying these and you think that other people should see them as well, then consider that, please. So to those watching on the Underrated channel, thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.